Growing up in South Georgia, I was interested in all your typical South Georgia things: trucks, cows, fishing, camping, kayaking. You name it, I was interested in it. But then one Christmas, we got a gift that changed everything. One Christmas, we got a Nintendo GameCube, 3 controllers, FIFA World Cup 2002, The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition disc, and SSX Tricky, the greatest snowboarding video game to ever exist. From that moment on, I was hooked. I mean, I can't begin to explain to you how much of my free time I wasted playing video games growing up. However, the members that we're going to meet in this session have spent their free time way more productively than I ever did. In this session, we'll meet members who have unlocked their musical potential, spent hours of their free time researching the solutions to agricultural problems, hear from the National Association of Agriculture Educators, and hear the retiring address of our Western Region Vice President, Mr. Bryce Clough. Ladies and gentlemen, let's plug in those TVs, put in our favorite game, grab our controllers, and get ready for this, the 5th General Session of the 91st National FFA Convention and Expo.
Just one chance, just one moment, change the course, it's time we show it. Just one step, just one choice, can pave the way, let's raise our voice.
Pretty much every video game, from Angry Birds to Fortnite, has a guide or tutorial that teaches you how to play. Being successful in video games in our life requires that we know the rules and we know how to play. In our own lives, we all need educators, we need people to guide us, and in our classrooms and our agricultural education settings across the country, all of our students need mentors and guides to teach them in the ways of modern agriculture. Today, we have the opportunity to learn from one of our very own. Mr. Dane White from Galt, California, is an agricultural educator and is speaking with us here today on behalf of the National Association of Agriculture Educators. Let's give it up for Mr. Dane White.
That was kind of an intense moment.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. As was mentioned, my name's Dane White, and I'm a high school agriculture teacher in a small town in California's Central Valley called Galt. And I'm very pleased to be here with you today speaking on behalf of the National Association of Agricultural Educators, the NAAE. Now, as I was preparing my remarks for today, I really spent most of my time reflecting on the tremendous blessing it is to get to be an ag teacher, to invest in students and teach you, to grow local communities and help strengthen an industry that feeds the world. Now, like many of us, I do my best thinking in a certain location, and you can think about where your best thinking spot is, but for me, that occurs around the table with my family. Now, the table actually has a pretty serious significance here in this country, because when we're at the table, we're family. We're able to connect and invest in one another. We are valued and seen. We can celebrate joys and help one another overcome hardships. The table's where we experience real kinship. Now, recently, I was able to sit at a table with one of my families, the 8 chapter officers on our Galt FFA officer team. And we were planning one of our monthly FFA meetings, which are pretty significant undertakings, actually. And as I was sitting there watching, I had this epiphany, this aha moment, where I recognized that were it not for FFA, there's probably no way that those 8 talented and kind, generous, brilliant souls would have ever been gathered together around a table in fellowship, sharing their gifts and giving what they have and growing in service of a larger cause. And so I left that day kind of pondering an important question. Who's at our tables? Now, I know that's more metaphorical than it is a tactile reality. I mean, how long can an actual table be? But I think the idea sticks. Now, in our ag program, the vast majority of our students refer to themselves as the ag family. And I'm sure that most of them would have felt just as at home as our officers at that table, experiencing that kind of bonding and growth. But if you were to look back a few years in our history, I'm not sure I would have been able to say the same thing. You see, a few years ago, Galt experienced a pretty seismic demographic shift. And the vast majority of the students that we were deeply invested in were no longer enrolled at our high school. And so we watched as our numbers plummeted. And though we poured ourselves out in love and service to those who were there, we looked up and saw that there was a sizable portion of our school's population who didn't feel invited to the table. They didn't see themselves as among our family. They couldn't envision their names stitched in gold in a blue jacket. They didn't know that FFA was a place where they could, in fact, thrive. And that bothered us because our belief is that every student should have a place in agricultural education. And so we figured out what to do about it. We asked some really tough questions, and we rooted out some uncomfortable truths and faced a difficult reality. But because of our belief that every student should have a place at the table, we took that information, we adjusted, we lengthened our tables, we pulled up more seats, and invited people to join us. And frankly, that made all the difference. A program that had gone down to 150 FFA members has grown once again to over 600. Every month, we have about 300 students of all different varieties attending our nightly FFA meetings. We experience success in a lot of different ways with a lot of different kind of kids because they know that FFA is a place where they belong, where they're part of the family, and they can thrive. At its core, the NAAE has a very similar mission. We believe that every student should have a place at our table, that ag education is for everyone, no matter the color of their skin, the way that they pray, who they love, their interests, the language they speak at home, or their level of agricultural expertise. Everyone should have a seat at the table. Now, I know that's kind of a difficult thing to do, to ask ourselves, hey, does everyone feel like this is a place where they can belong? But frankly, it begins here with us, asking those tough questions. And I would say it's time to do so. So begin by asking yourself, who's here from our chapter? Who is involved in our local events? Who decides to take it to the next level and participate even further? Is our chapter the kind of place that's warm and inviting and welcoming to all? Does everyone feel like they have a seat? Are messages of exclusion dismantled? Do we change that lurking suspicion that some students belong in ag education more than others? If your answer is yes, awesome. That must mean that your program reflects the diversity that makes our high schools and our communities in this country so beautiful and powerful. But if not, it's up to the people in this room to change it. And frankly, I know the power of having an attitude of inclusion, of giving everyone a seat at the table, because I'm the beneficiary of it. You see, when I started high school, I didn't look like every other ag student at Eureka High. I was kind of tragic looking, actually. I wore baggy mid-1990s Levi's. I loved basketball and soccer, and I had never set foot in the show ring. And yet, my agriculture teacher, Sandy Lofald, and the leadership students at our high school, the people who were just like you, they saw me as the same as them. They invited me to sit at their table and join their family. They gave me a place to experience the kind of kinship that we all deserve. I never wore a mantle of otherness just because I dressed differently and didn't know how to show a hog. Instead, they invited me in. I was family. I had a seat. And as I look at the arc of my time in FFA and really the trajectory of my whole life, I know that that attitude really made all the difference. So my friends, I know it's tough to take a hard look at the programs that have made us successful, the places where we have thrived, the places we love and are so invested in, and recognize that they too must evolve and adjust a little to lengthen the table and to pull up more seats and to invite others to be part of the family. But someone did that for us. So if we don't do it, who will? No, I'm not unrealistic. I know that not every person's going to be able to take this message and carry it home passionately, but it really takes just one person to do that. Is that person going to be you? I sure hope so. Now, can it be done? Can one person make that kind of difference? Undoubtedly so. I've seen its power. I know the dividends it can yield. And believe along with my peers in the NAAE, that it's the right thing to do for all. So can you do it? Si se puede. Yes, you undoubtedly can. And that means now the question is, will you do it? Will you invite everyone into your family and give them a seat at your table? I certainly hope so. So let's get it done for all. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Mr. White, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. Your message of giving everyone a seat at the table is something that we all need to hear. Thank you so much for everything that you do every day and for speaking on behalf of the National Association of Agricultural Educators. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you.